And welcome everyone back to your church of heavy metal that is Thunderdome Metal Reviews. It is a new year, but it's the same crew. I am the Doctor. Well, I know I'm not. He is the Dr. David Pizzo. I am the Reverend Lindsay. We have Gabe, Murder Basement Cooper, with us, as well as Tracy, the Human Pivot Table of Newport. And we are talking about an album that you may have missed last year, especially if you're a heavy metal fan, because this is by an outfit that normally often does really heavy industrial metal, but did not do so necessarily on this album. But before we get into that, gentlemen, how are you all doing?
I'm doing good.
Ready for some
Some of that.
Yeah. Sweet electronica.
I have been on this ride since 1998.
Yeah.
So I was, when you said that, I'm like, yeah, obviously. I'm like, oh, it's already in my library. Yeah, you know, and I've seen them try all kinds of shit, y'all. They've been all over the place unabashedly.
In a way that only I can think of. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, they put out an album like every 4 minutes. Yeah, they're like
Pretty
KMFDM, or I'd say Nine Inch Nails grade in terms of their amount of their ministry. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. But
it was KMFDM that I was going to say. And for those of you who don't know, who aren't watching it, it's Frontline Assembly's Mechanical Soul. It was released. I didn't put it down here. So it doesn't matter when it was released. I guess it was released sometime back in February, I believe.
I think it was January. I think it was January 24th. I was surprised.
Tracy, would you look that up for me while I'm reading the rest of the stuff? And it's their 17th studio album, so they have been doing this for a long time. It was recorded at the Green Jacket and Straight Sound Studios, both in British Columbia, released on the label Metropolis. Producers were Bill Deeb and then Rise Fulber. Has a runtime of 57 minutes and 43 seconds. The band itself is really only 2 members, as if you were listening to our last review, David said this could be a band that has 2 members or 11. Well, this time they only have 2 with some additional musicians. Bill Deeb, vocals, electronic instruments and production, and Reese Fulber, electronic instruments programming, production, and mixing for most of the album, and also vocal recording. The additional musicians were Gino Cazares on guitars of Fear Factory fame, Jean-Luc Demeyer on vocals for track 8, and Brian Black did remixing and some additional production.
Reese, I assume it's Reese Fulber, also did a bunch with Fear Factory. Like he's produced their stuff and played on. So there's all kinds of overlap.
There is.
But yeah, no, these guys are Canadian AF.
It was released on January 15th. You were close, David.
It was close. I knew it was January. I was surprised. Like, shit, it's been out that long, but it has. And it's not like Columbia Necktie. Like if you listen to their albums from the mid-90s or some of the other stuff from the 2000s, you'd be like, what the hell, man? But you know, there were other albums. Some of my favorite ones were precisely these smooth jazz, weird electro ones like this that are like Fresh Air meets, you know, I don't know, like Nine Inch Nails essentially. So this just reminded me of the late 90s albums.
That's fair. It also had a little bit of a dark wave to it.
For sure.
So it kind of reminded me of that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of in the bag for that. So, I mean, straight off the bat, as you haven't guessed it yet, this is not metal at all. It's a band that sometimes does metal and, like I said, really leads into the industrial thing. There's a bit of industrial on this, but it's not really heavy.
Much. Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of like an EDM or trance album. The entire time I was listening to it, I'm like, I felt like I was listening to the soundtrack of a nightclub scene in a late 90s, early 2000s vampire movie.
Some Blade movie, yeah.
For sure. The album before this had a fair amount of guitar, some really heavy, scary ass guitar. That album was terrifying. So they eased off and sort of leaned back into the little bit more electronica. I would not be surprised if their 18th album, you know, in the 7th year of the pandemic, is also just back into industrial, because they've oscillated like a pendulum more than once. That's what happens when you make 17 records. It's bananas. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the first kind of thing that struck me about this record is how much it reminded me of even just like mid-90s Nine Inch Nails. And that's really not even, I mean, I'm not even really familiar with Nine Inch Nails that much, but it just took me right back there. And then the second place that it took me was this German band that I really love from the early 80s, Deutsch-Amerikanische Freundschaft, German-American Friendship, or DAF. And one of the songs in particular reminded me a lot of that. and I like that. If you don't know who they are, they basically invented what is now called EBM, but they were doing it when, you know, synthesizers first became very, very affordable for the everyday person, and they did a whole lot with that. But anyway, yeah, I'm not totally in the bag necessarily for this kind of music, but there were pieces of it that I did like, and that I could handle listening to more than once. So
All
This
right.
album made me angry
I knew it was going to.
why did it make you angry, JC?
because I came in expecting a metal album. I was like, it's industrial. All right, I'll deal with that. Then I get in here, and I didn't even realize there was guitars on that song. I was like, this album has no fucking guitars on it. Like,
Surprise, motherfucker.
we're doing a metal podcast, and it's like,
Oops.
this is this is not metal. Like, I
You're
don't give
not
a shit.
metal.
Ben,
It was a
guitars-
curveball, but I wasn't mad about it.
Yeah, me either.
I was in the mindset of prepping for a metal. And it's
Tracy,
like, ugh.
you are in the mindset of prepping for metal every minute of every day.
Yeah, that's
And
all you
that's
need
true.
to do.
We shoved you into another genre, and you're like,
Yeah, there's no
Nope.
dulcimer or
But-
saxophone on this, so I mean,
No, I get mad when I get thrust into a salsa breakdown in the middle of like a metal track. It's a little different for me.
yeah. I did expect this to be heavier than what it was, just
Me too.
because I'm not as familiar with them as David. I won't pretend to be, but I have listened to some of their other albums and stuff, and you know, some of them are very heavy. And,
oh yeah, terrifyingly so.
yeah. So that's what I was expecting this to be, but you know, I was disappointed that I didn't get that, but I wasn't angry about it because what I got, I thought was pretty good.
I will
If-
take an opportunity to put something much heavier on the schedule.
I think and it's kind of where we're at the end of the year, where it's like, all right, trying to narrow down my end of the year top list, and then, all right, here's an album that possible contention, and it's like, hearing it, I'm like, nope. If I would have heard this at the beginning of the year, it might have been more receptive to it, but now I'm like, it's crunch time. I got to burn through as many albums as I can to rank them, and this is taking time away.
This is taking away from my being the 333rd album of the year.
Yes, exactly. It's taking time away. Like I counted. I currently have 46 albums ranked, and I got about 60 more to go. And I'm like, all right.
Oof, I got it to the low 50s. Quit, and
And I'm
that's
like,
it.
I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
now
that's
I
where was too,
gotta
David.
Yeah,
get
I'm
into
done.
it.
There's no point. Well, no, we don't have to talk about this right now. I don't want to go all spreadsheet inception on our listeners.
Yeah.
So, the point is, this is an album that exists. It is not as heavy as either Ben and I expected, but I'm not sad because a lot of their albums sound like this. And I played table games listening to this shit. I role played. I fought vampires listening to this shit. Like
Yeah, same.
you know, hid bodies to it. I mean, because it's always really dark and creepy and dystopic, and they're very cynical, and their politics absolutely aligned with mine in terms of like, suck on the Anthropocene, asshole. Like that's their, I mean, look at that album cover.
Yeah.
So I mean, these names.
Well, these tracks. I mean, I'll go
Yes.
ahead and go first and
Do
try to
it.
pick this. You know, I thought Purge was a good opener. I really liked Glass and Leather, New World, Rubber Tube Gag, Barbarians Come Stripped mit mir. I'm sorry for those of you who actually speak German. You know, and Hate of All, Black Asteroid Mix, I thought was a good closer. So I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of the songs, despite them not being really heavy.
I pretty much like all these songs. I was slightly annoyed when Hatefall had that weird thing at the end. I'm like, what are you doing? Is there a song here or not? And there isn't. Everyone drink, yeah. But I really do like Purge, Glass and Leather, Rubber Tube Gag, Barbarians is good. Komm stieb mit mir. And I think Hatefall's a strong. And I don't know why it's a mix. Where's the other one? I forget. The thing is, they toss their stuff from album to album to album. Who even knows? The point is, I thought from start to finish, this was a nice, creepy, scary, atmospheric hell ride, and I was glad to be on it.
Yeah, with 17 albums, there's no telling where Hatefall was, or if it was on a soundtrack, or who the hell knows. I certainly don't.
So I liked a number of the tracks on this album, and I think, like I said at the beginning, a lot of the places where I latched on was where I was thinking, oh, this basically just sounds like Nine Inch Nails, and it's totally, listenable. And that goes for the first track, Purge. That goes for Stifle, which I thought was pretty darn cool as well. I like Glass and Leather. I I also like Komm stirbt mit mir. That's where I thought of DAF, or Deutsche Amerikanische Freundschaft, not just because of the German title, but it just kind of hit me that way. And Hateful was okay too. I enjoyed that. Some of this stuff was just sort of not very distinguishable for me from other stuff, just because I don't listen to this genre all that much. But like I said, it wasn't offensive.
I'm sure to nobody's surprise, I didn't really care for any of them, and which I'll probably come back and look at this album at a later date in a different mind frame, of mindset when I come into it. So I may enjoy it more then, but at the moment, none of them.
I'm gonna fucking attack you with vampires, and you'll be forced to deploy this. You have no choice. This will be the only album you have.
I don't care. Don't scare me.
So that doesn't. I'll just listen to nothing. I'll just listen to wrestling songs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Indeed. So let's grade this thing. I picked it. I'll go first. I'm going to give it a slightly lower grade than I think it actually deserves if I was grading it outside of a metal context. But since we are a metal review and there's scant any metal on this, I'm going to give it a C. The tracks are pretty good. This is actually an album I would probably just put on and listen to instead of pulling something off for. But if I was looking for metal, the metal detector would not beep. So.
Well, my name is Dr. Great Inflation, and I don't care. I like this band. I've always liked this band, and it is not an A album. I really don't think it is. They have a bunch of A albums. This isn't one of them. But I still think it's a B plus. I got to balance out that C, man. It's cool. It's creepy. I like it. B plus.
F. I'm gonna give it a 60.
You're a terrible person.
A 59, 60 is a D. 59.
That's about to say, dude.
Well, I'm gonna hit the pendulum swinging the other way, because I'm gonna sidle up with David and give it a B plus, because it's not bad at all. And I'd never heard really other stuff by this band, but I check it out, especially if it's more on the industrial end of things, because that would interest me more. I mean, this is kind of like, I would say it's a bit light. It's not challenging really, but still enjoyable.
Yeah, totally. I would go see them live if concerts ever become a thing again. So.
Which
I will. I say, go ahead. Say what you were
going
going
to
to
say. The Thunderdome aggregate makes it a 78, a C plus.
I'll take it. Yeah, I will at some point. The schedule for 22 is already almost full, but at some point I'll hit you with one of the early albums, maybe one of the ones early career period where they were like literally in that exact pocket you're talking about, Gabe, like in the mid 90s, with such hits as Colombian Necktie. I feel like gives you some idea of where they went.
Indeed.
Rubber tube gag. They don't give a fuck, y'all. Anyway,
they don't. They've been around too long to give a fuck. It's 17 albums in, and with all the badass producing that Reese Wilbur has done on like,
oh my god, everything,
Spirit Factory albums and everything else. Yeah. All right, so Mr. Tracy, what are we doing next time?
Next time we are doing Alien Weaponry's second album, Tangaroa.
Yes, we are. Yeah, Tangaroa.
That first album was so good and came out of
Oh,
nowhere.
it fucking was.
To me, it blindsided me. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Let's
Me
see
too.
if they have a sophomore slump.
You're a sophomore slump.
Heyo.
Why do you hate everything
He's
I love, Tracy?
I don't hate
fake
everything you
still.
love.
It's not accurate.
Yeah, he co-aligns with you a lot on like Slipknot.
He basically on Slipknot. That's like
And
the Venn
And
diagram.
the prog metal. And
That's some prog metal. No, that we're allies there as well.
Indeed.
Well, I'm
God's
pumped.
Slowly infecting me with power metal. So I mean,
Reluctantly, yes. But more on that later. More on that
Indeed.
soon enough. Thanks for joining us on another very exciting episode of Thunderdome Metal Reviews.
Baka!